Thank you for staying with us. We still have our guest in the studio, still looking into the matter of the situation around the judiciary as we speak. And you were speaking to some issues before we went to on the break. But I'd like to quickly touch on the matter you mentioned earlier that, you know, the judiciary and some of these persons who come into the system being proxies of politicians. And this also has been the issue where some people say it's a matter of state capture. They call it a matter of state capture, so to speak. But I am wondering how much of a concern and how much of a danger this poses for our democracy as it is. You have mentioned earlier the role of the judiciary in determining the election matters, and we have seen how Nigerians are beginning to speak with regards to if this is how things are, what's the essence of we, the electorate, coming out to vote at the end of the day. Speak to these issues.
The truth of the matter is that the courts, you know, I started by laying a foundation on how unique and special
they are.
The courts, the judiciary is. Now, when decisions of courts are given, sometimes they don't necessarily need to reflect public sentiments, right? But they must reflect common sense, right? People shouldn't live with the impression, like we say, you know, justice is rooted in confidence. Confidence is destroyed when right-thinking observers who observe the proceedings go away saying the judge was biased or the judge was compromised. So confidence is the greatest asset of the judiciary.
Right.
When the judiciary lacks confidence, or people lack confidence in the judiciary, that affects the legitimacy of the decisions of our courts. The respectability. Why do you think politicians taunt their opponents to go to court? Why do you think a policeman will arrest somebody and tell you to go to court? As lawyers, the police tell us lawyers who go to police stations, right? Who have cause to go to police stations. They will tell you, go and wait for us in court. Go to court.
Yeah, they're bold.
Yes, because they simply believe that decisions of court are ineffective. How did we get there? So we need to really look at this problem. But the one on political cases, the one on elections, whether pre-election or post-election, judges must understand that the destiny of a country, the destiny of a people is at stake. Because if we continue on this trajectory, look at what is happening. I feel sometimes very sad on social media. I'm active on social media. You go on X, formerly Twitter, you see the way Nigerians are scrutinizing judgments of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
People that are not lawyers. You see the way they are bastardizing, the way they are abusing justices and lawyers, right? And you begin to ask yourself, how did we get here? So the judiciary must admit, the starting point is that we need to have an admission as a profession that something is wrong, that the public has lost confidence to a large extent in our courts, and find a way to remedy it. We're not going to solve that problem through self-denial. And I said, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, I would recommend, right, should have maybe set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the judiciary. I will call for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
What would that do?
To look at this problem, because we have had committees constituted in the past, right, to look into the problem of the judiciary. But implementation has always been a thing. So maybe we need to now have a dialogue where people that have grievances with our courts can publicly come out and state it, and then we begin the healing process. So this is now about lawyers and judges and justices taking responsibility, becoming more alive. Judges should also insist on the integrity of their orders. How can you sit as a judge and make an order for a citizen or someone to be released, and the person is being held, and the matter comes before you and you are still sitting? You are still making excuses. You are not insisting that I am giving you till 5 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, so I'm giving you 2 hours to produce this person. So judges must assert the authority when the executive or arms of the executive or law enforcement agencies flout their orders.
Right.
How would judges exert authority when they are allegedly said to be under the palms of the government, state governments?
Well,
How does this ensure that how do we ensure that the judiciary is actually independent?
I think it's for judges to realize that they don't work for governors. They don't work for the president.
But,
They must realize that.
okay.
Right? They must agree that the judiciary is an independent organ of government. But as I told you, what is independence? You know, they say he who pays the piper.
It
The
is
takes
the
the
tune.
tune.
And I keep telling Nigerians, the same thing when we speak about the embarrassment that the National Assembly has become. I said that in terms of accountability, the federal government has always been better. In terms of bastardization of state institutions, the state governors are the worst culprits. And I've had cause to describe them as constitutional vandals. Because at the state level, what you have is constitutional vandalism. There is very little accountability at the states, including at the judiciary level. Governors basically see judges as people that work for them. I'm not going to mention a state, but I had a chief judge who told me, stop fighting my governor in open court. He didn't say stop fighting the governor, he said my governor. You can see the personalization.
Right.
A chief judge in Nigeria told me in open court, stop fighting my governor. Stop fighting my governor. You think that if it is everything you want from the court, you just keep fighting all these cases?
That's why I kept asking, so where is the hope of the common man?
It is a character problem. We need to realize that the judiciary is an independent arm of government. This nonsense of governors announcing that they have broadcasts for judges, the welfare of judges constitutionally is supposed to be charged, is a first-line charge. From the Consolidated Revenue Fund, the judiciary is supposed to be autonomous. The judiciary is supposed to have a way of doing projects without necessarily having to kneel governors or chief judge or justice office, having to go and beg the executive. If we don't address the problem of financial autonomy, we are wasting our time. We are wasting our time. So we need to really ask ourselves, do we really want an efficient judicial system? If we want an efficient judicial system, the process of discipline of judicial officers who have violated their oath of office, of lawyers who have violated the rules of professional conduct should be re-scrutinized. We must also look at the process of appointments of people to the bench. The fact that my father is a chief judge or my father is a justice should not be automatic that I must be one. I mean, it's beginning to look like what we see in the Pentecostal church. As the general overseer is retiring, the son takes over or the wife takes over. We shouldn't have that kind of legacy in the judiciary. It's not a reading tree. It shouldn't be genetically transmitted. It shouldn't be sexually transmitted. Appointments into the courts, into the judiciary must be entirely based on merit. It shouldn't be because you know somebody that can recommend you, that can speak on your behalf. We must speak about these issues, and we must speak about it honestly.
Now, as perhaps a low-hanging fruit, where do we begin with restoration of confidence on the judiciary as a matter of low-hanging fruit?
The buck stops on the decks of the heads of courts, beginning with my Lord, the Honorable CJN, to the chief judges of states, right? We must find a way to agree that Nigerians have a problem trusting. I mean, do you know that it is so bad that in cases where the courts are giving the correct decision, people still suspect that
there is something.
Yeah. Even when no corruption is involved. That is what loss of faith and confidence does. That even when the judges are right, people still question it because they are now beginning to see that politicians, look at what the person from one of the northern states said, I think Plateau or so, the National Assembly member, I think, who was boasting that when we get, we will show them who we have. We saw the husband of a retired head of court boasting openly that he assisted his colleagues in political matters. In some countries, self-respecting countries, when these kind of things are said, you see consequences. You see accountability.
So consequence, accountability is also what needs to be addressed.
We need accountability. We need institutional reform. We need to look at the welfare of judges. We need to digitalize our courts. I shouldn't have to be going through so much for me to have access to judgments of courts.
All right.
It should be uploaded on the website. Everybody should be able to have it immediately.
In that regard, right? Because we're passing judgments via Zoom now.
Is that... His facial expression is enough. Anyway, we'll have to leave this conversation here now. Lawyer Inibehe Fiong, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
On the program, as always, interesting.